Hello and welcome. We're hoping to start here in just a few minutes. We hope you've been able to find the YouTube channel and get connected, and we'll get started here in just another minute. Hello and welcome. We're hoping to start here in just a few minutes. We hope you've been able to find the YouTube channel. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mrs. Lehman. I'm one of the park counselors. I'm joined with Miss Lewis, who is a counselor at Canton as well. She is new counselor this year. She will be managing the chat and with questions that we have. As I said, I'm Mrs. Lehman. I'm one of the Canton counselors, but I'm the park lead counselor. So I'm happy to share and give you some information as we move from the junior year into the senior year, graduation and beyond. So let me go ahead and share my screen. There we go. And let's go ahead and get started. So let me first start by saying this presentation was previously recorded. It will be uploaded onto the class page of 2023, as well as the Counseling Canvas page in all three buildings. The Counseling Canvas page is accessible to all students, and the class of 2023 webpage is connected with the district. And all you need to do is get on the district site and go ahead and do in the search bar class of 2023, and it will show. And that will give you an opportunity to go back and watch the presentation, pause it where needed. We will also be uploading this presentation in slide format so that you can connect and see all the links that we've shared in this presentation. So with that, welcome to junior parents and guardians and any of our students that are class of 2023. So first, let's talk about our objectives. Our first objective is to review the timeline for junior and senior year. It will give us some ideas of not only from now through this school year, but into next year. We're also going to provide a number of tips and resources for our students and your families to use while you explore post-secondary options. We want to make sure we're giving all kinds of opportunities for students to investigate and research and get a really good plan in place. Then we'll also talk about an overview of the college application process. And please understand, this is just the beginning of all this process, and I'll show you some times and when we're going to meet again and go over it. So let's talk about the timeline. So the junior year timeline, what should we be focusing on? Well, let me first start by saying the counseling department at the park has been focusing on junior conferences. Prior to spring break, we were meeting with our juniors one-on-one, individually talking with them. What we first did was we looked and reviewed their audit. All the counselors uploaded an audit into MyStar, which you do have access to. I hope you've been able to check that out. But we compared that audit with their senior schedule of courses they've chosen to make sure they're meeting their graduation requirements. And then along that way, we also talked about, and with them, was about the courses they've chosen and how it will match with their post-secondary plans. For example, if they're looking to go to a high-level four-year university, we may have looked at the rigor of the courses they've taken. We've also maybe talked to a student that's looking to do something within a trades program, and maybe it's electronics or something in that realm, and talk about, well, maybe they need to look at some electives that might support them and kind of reassure that that's the direction they should be going. So that was one component of our meeting. And the other part was really talking about what are those post-secondary plans? What do they see them doing? What do they see themselves doing when they grow up? What do they want to be? And so we talk about their likes and their dislikes some, and we also connect it to those options. And then we give them some things to think about as they move through the rest of the spring and kind of doing that research and investigation. And please know that we are always open to meet with our kids. On our Counseling Canvas pages, the counselors have links to their appointment calendars, and students are able to make appointments at any time throughout the week, and hopefully that helps them. And I know that many of the counselors are available throughout lunchtime, if that makes it more convenient for our kids. So our focus has been meeting with the kids. If your student, your child did not make their junior conference, they are more than welcome to go ahead and schedule an appointment with their counselor to have that kind of catch up and kind of make sure they've got everything ready to go. In that meeting, there were two expectations for our students. One was to create a parchment account. So check with your kids and see if they've created their parchment account. This is the system or program that will help them in sending their transcripts for applications. And second was to fill out a Google form. It gave us a lot of information about them, more than what simply a transcript might tell us, kind of creating a resume per se in a Google form. So here's what you should be focusing on. So as we head to the first time in the spring is the SAT and ACT. Now, next week, we are having the juniors are going to take the SAT at school. And it's an opportunity for kids to get an idea of where their strengths and weaknesses are academically. But one important thing that has really changed is a lot of schools are score optional. I would encourage you to look on their schools' websites to determine which schools need an SAT score or an ACT. Excuse me. While we offer the SAT, students are welcome to also sign up to take an ACT on their own. But one thing we do recommend is for kids that are taking the standardized exam, we encourage them to take it a second time. There are tests that are available this late spring into June that you can see on their websites where students can sign up and take the test a second time. What we find, kids that take it a second time tend to do better. Once you've done something the first time, it's a lot easier the second time. You know the timing, you know the kinds of questions, you know the pace that you need to keep as a student in filling out and working in a section. So it is a good opportunity for students to do so. And Khan Academy is always a great option for kids to do some study and prep work, but know that anytime they are preparing and doing their schoolwork is also preparing them for these standardized exams. One thing that we would say is in regards to the standardized exams, it would be great for them to send those scores if it's going to support them in getting admitted. And that's a little research that needs to be done about what's the expectation of this college or university they're looking at, or the military branch they're considering. Those might be some possible things to search for. The next is we want them to begin solidifying a plan. We want them to really kind of start thinking about what is that career pathway. We don't expect them to know the exact job, the exact position that they would want to hold. Some do, but we also know that many of them change their minds throughout the years. But we want them to start thinking about where that direction is, because what it connects to is where do they get that education? Is it in a trade program? Is it a 2-year college, a military, or a 4-year college? It really kind of helps them determine and solidify that plan. And we want to make sure that they're really the ones leading it. It's going to be their career path. It's going to be their future. So we want to make sure that they're the ones leading through this process. And again, there are a lot of sites here on the College and Career Exploration. As I said, this presentation will be accessible where you can go back and check out some of these links that we've supported or given you to research with. The next is financial aid. We know all students need some financial need or support, and we want to make sure that they have every opportunity to get that information. I'm going to talk about a financial aid night we're having here in next week, but the free or the federal aid for college or universities is open on October 1st. So it's a little bit of a time period, but it's also something that you can begin to plan for. And as you can see, we've given you 3 aids that will also help in this process of what this really means. In actuality of completing the federal financial aid, many of you may have done it when you were younger and know that that process have drastically changed. It takes you about 30 minutes to complete the FAFSA. And that's from the time that you create the account to uploading and connecting all your information. It is now linked directly with your taxes. And so it actually is something that can be completely connected and transferred over immediately. So it makes it a lot more seamless for many people and a lot less errors. But again, there's some resources there and I encourage you to check those out. One thing that's great as we move into summertime is the opportunity for kids this summer to get some responsibility, to get some, maybe a job, a volunteer opportunity, and if an internship is appropriate. Having a job or working in a volunteer capacity definitely gives a kid an opportunity to show some responsibility beyond the classroom. And that sometimes is what a college or university might be looking for. There's sometimes a college or university might ask for essay questions, and it might pertain to this. So this might be a possibility or a consideration to look into. Either having a job, considering some volunteer work, we know not only helps you internally, but also helps our community as a whole. And then sometime it might be appropriate to do an internship. And many of you have done that, searching and checking out programs that are available. A lot of our colleges and universities also have campus programs, and we posted a number of them on our websites, but I would also encourage you to check those out and look at possible interests in career pathways. The next is when we talked with some of our juniors, some of the college applications require letters of recommendation, not all of them, and I'll talk more specifically about which ones. But we do encourage kids to reach out to some of their core academic teachers this spring and ask them for recommendation letters. The recommendation letters will really be helpful in not only applying to college, but also for scholarships. There are a number of scholarships, and I'll talk about that a little bit in the sense that those recommendation letters will be really helpful in supporting that all-around student. Your teacher may ask for a resume, and I encourage you to fill out a resume and give that to them so that they know that here's some other things that you're doing and involved in outside of their classroom. And then please, as we always want to, make sure you follow it up with a thank you, because it really will help and support you. And we know it's definitely an appreciation from you. The last is to visit colleges. When we met with the kids that in junior conferences before spring break, we really encouraged them during this past spring break to go visit college campuses. But again, sometimes it's not always feasible, or you're not in town, and this summer might be the possibility. So we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to walk on campus. I have to say that one of my best recommendations, and I've seen it again and again, is for a student when they walk on campus, makes such an impact of whether that really is the right place for them. It's also really important to take an actual tour with the college or university. It's great to go visit an older sibling or friends that are attending a college or university, but it's that representative from the universities that's going to talk to you and explain to you their 5-year plan. What new building is being done? What updates are being made? How's a dorm work in their school? And a number of different areas. You also find out through that tour, what are your interests? What's important to you about that place you're going to attend? And while we talk about visiting a college, it's also important to visit a military, have a conversation with a military rep, see a trade program. Anytime you can expose yourself to where your pathway may lead you, gives you a better understanding of if you're making the right decision. So as I said, it really is helpful. Now, a lot of times we'll talk to kids and they'll say, well, I want to go to a school in Texas or California or Florida. And I'll say, well, I'm not telling you, but I would love for you to be on that campus. But don't go home and tell your parents, hey, we've got to fly to Florida or go to Texas. Thankfully, there's a lot of schools that have virtual tours on their websites. And it's a great place to start, especially if you're not able to actually visit the campus in their state. As the summer continues on, we want to continue that research, make sure that you're looking into programs, looking opportunities. As I said, college campus might have a program, a week-long workshop or opportunity for you to learn more about that career pathway you're interested in. So just the more you experience and more opportunities that you have, again, is kind of defining that pathway for you. It is also important to learn what you don't like as much as it is to learn what you like. As I said before, those creating a resume is important when you talk with a teacher about a recommendation letter. But I'd also tell you that in creating your resume is sitting down and figuring out, what have I been involved in the last few years? Was I involved in DECA for 2 years or was it 3 years? Have I been on a sports team for 2 seasons or 3? And maybe did I do some volunteer work when I was a sophomore? And who did I do it with and how many hours did I have? As you create this resume, it's actually very helpful for you as you move to college applications and as you talk about your next phase. One thing that we also have is a college essay. So we have an opportunity for our students to learn more about those college essays that you're going to be writing. That'll come out on June 3rd. It's going to be offered at school during the school day, 3 hours during the school day. And we'll send that out in the next couple of weeks just to make sure that students can sign up and have the opportunity to learn from one of our great English teachers. I'll be joining him along with Mr. Forsland, who's really big on the data and statistics about college admissions and acceptance rates. So as I said, we've got a lot of resources here for you. This is just a sampling of the opportunities and the information that we can share with our students and families. So we want to make sure, again, go back to the slide presentation when you have the time, can sit down and really start to look at some of the resources we have here. So the first is we talk about the college, as we said before. Big Future is a site that's gone with College Board is through their system. It's a great search tool. I really like it because you can actually specify, do you want a school that has a degree in psychology? I want to have a co-ed campus. I want it to be at about 15,000 students. I want it in the Midwest. You can make all these specifications and really get a whole list. Once you get the list, it can give you those direct links right to the college and university where you can learn more. We've also got the Common Black application is really important for some of our students to be aware of that. It is slightly different than the other, but it directly links you to many of those HBC colleges. And it also talks about college majors and programs that you can get informed with. But we know that college is not the right direction for everyone. It's not where you're going to learn your education. It might be in a skilled trade or military. Now, many of our students have been seeing the military visiting our campuses all year long. They are many times outside of our cafeterias and available for students to ask questions, learn more about the branch that they're a part of, and kind of find out what the difference is and what those opportunities are. Please know too that our staff and our counseling department especially has really been learning a lot about the military programs, a lot about what that is in support of academics, the education programs, the colleges that are already part of a military branch. And so that gives you a great opportunity. But we also know those trade programs. There's a few in our area, but we're also seeing, and a lot of our trades are also funneling into our community colleges. So don't be afraid that, or don't think that it's just simply, there's not a trade for you. Understand that there also might be a possibility within a community college that is part of that. Welding is one of the big ones we've seen. HVAC is another one. But in that, this link will get you to some of those resources. Trade programs have, every one of them are slightly different in how you get involved and connected and begin that process. So as I said before, scholarships and financial aid, it's always helpful, regardless of what route you plan on going through, but we want to make sure that you have access to this. So as we met some of the juniors, and when they talked about the financial need or some interest in doing scholarships, all of our scholarships that we post, local, state and national, and even some university ones, they're posted on our school's website under counseling department and scholarships, or you can also find them. There's a poster or a bulletin board in all 3 counseling offices, and this information is the same in all locations. We want to make sure that it's easily accessible to our seniors, because it's senior year when you can start applying for scholarships. So usually about mid-October, we start seeing them come and start showing up on the website, as well as our bulletin boards. So we want to make sure that even if it's a Plymouth student, but they are over in Canton and have some time in between or have their lunch there, they can check out the scholarship board, or if they're in Salem or vice versa. But we want to make it accessible to them. The kids that really do the best in scholarships are ones that plan ahead. They're ones that check out the bulletin board, look at dates, and kind of plan out when they can fit in an opportunity. Majority of the scholarships, the ones that are local, tend to be very similar from year to year. So that's why we even encourage some of our juniors to take a look at the scholarship board now, get an idea of what the expectations are, what you might qualify, which ones are some to be looking for next year, so that you can, again, plan ahead and be really successful with it. And again, here are those links for you to check out and make sure that you have access to that information. Again, I want to make sure that you have all the access and come back to this when it's really some time where you can sit down and read through some of this information. But the Federal Student Aid we'll talk about even next week at our meeting. So here's our career site. So this is our career exploration page. One thing that we know is when the kids were in 8th grade, they should have started what was called career cruising at the time and is now transferred to the name Zello. Zello is an opportunity where students have a chance to do an interest inventory. As I said before, it's really valuable to learn not only what you like, but also what you don't like. And that's what that interest inventory will do. It's funny, sometimes kids will do the Zello and come up with these 10 top career fields, and they'll look at the list and go, okay, I would never do that career field number 3, or I'm never going to do number 5. But I never thought about number 1 and 2. So it's interesting sometimes when those career fields show up. And the other thing to understand is we know that from today, from 5 years from now, those career fields are going to definitely change and evolve. So even though you may not think you're going to do that career field, you may do something within that capacity. And it kind of begins to give us some direction and kind of begin to make that solidifying that plan we want you to work towards. Again, College Board is another opportunity, and Big Future not only does the college search, but it does a career search for students. We actually are meeting with our top sophomores next week, and we're talking about my next move. I don't think we really did a great opportunity with you guys just because of being in COVID or out of COVID. But we want to know that you have an opportunity to go back and do an interest inventory through my next move as well. Again, anytime you do an interest inventory is valuable, and you can redo the same one if you did it a year ago to how you are now, because you've experienced classes and coursework that's different. You've learned about likes and dislikes from your classes, and really your interests may have changed. The one I want to point out at the bottom is the PCP Career Center. We have a career center. It's actually physically located at Canton High School is where her office is, but Maggie Stiles runs the career center. She's the one that was so great in implementing and setting up the career or college night we had a couple of weeks ago, just before spring break. We greatly appreciate her support. She's the one that will set up our visits in the fall for every college representative for the state of Michigan and our neighboring states will come for a visit to our campus. So she's a great resource that we have, and she's also there to support our students. So if kids have questions or not sure where and how to get that process going about a career search, she's also a great resource for students to take advantage of. But again, these are some really great opportunities for our kids to get some more information if they're really not sure where that career pathway or what that career pathway looks like. So now we've got you kind of doing research, exploring your interests and finding out where you're at. And all of a sudden the summer is almost done and it's August 1st. August 1st is the date college applications begin. So we want to make sure you have an idea of how that senior year is going to go. First of all, it's one thing to know is that senior parent night is held just before open house. It's at 5 o'clock. It's usually been held at the Salem Auditorium, but again, it will kind of depend on where we are. We have done it as a Zoom as well, and we might put it back up here on YouTube of the district's channel. So 5 p.m. we'll review a lot of what I've talked about tonight and really specify the talking about that process of college applications and reminders about that parchment system. We follow it in a couple of weeks following that and meeting with all our seniors. We want to make sure that we connect with them specifically. We talk to them about what their transcript looks like, make sure that it's accurate and it's ready to go. Once we've met with those seniors and we've assured that the transcripts are correct, we will begin sending out transcripts to colleges and universities. But we want to make sure that we've made that connection with our students first and that we've got the most accurate information going out. As I said before, Maggie Stiles in the Career Center is the one that arranges and gets all of our college representatives and military branches to come in and visit. We have trade program directors come in and visit in our campus. They are not just in one building. They will many times travel and be at all 3 buildings in one day. We encourage you to check out the college military visits list that's here. It's also posted on our school's website as we move towards the fall, and it will be active and continue to be active throughout. But it definitely is an important opportunity. If you have the top 3 or top 5 locations of where you plan to go, whether it's a military branch, a trade program, or a college, I would recommend and expect that you would attend that meeting, whether it's in any building that works within your schedule, but we want you to be in front of that representative. We want to make sure that representative knows that that college university is a priority to you. And at that time is when you're going to learn the most important and updates. So you're making the best decision possible. You may have taken a tour this past week on spring break, but by the time we get to October, there's a brand new plan or a brand new building that's being started at that campus that you didn't know about. So we want to make sure you have the most up-to-date information, and those representatives are the ones that can really answer a lot of that information. Next, it begins, as I said, in October is that opportunity for you to start applying for scholarships. Again, we post the local scholarships from our Rotary and Kiwanis and all the local groups, and all of our elementary schools, or many of the elementary schools, have scholarships. We also promote some of our state scholarships and those university and even national scholarships. Clearly, the local scholarships are the least competitive because it's our Park students and Starkweather seniors that it can apply, or it has really specific criteria. Maybe you attended a specific elementary school. And again, don't hesitate. If you qualify and you meet their requirements, it's definitely an opportunity. But again, plan ahead. Make sure that you're giving your most opportunity out there and connect with those teachers about recommendation letters, because that will really help you make sure you're really prepared to do those scholarships and get those in on time and hopefully win and earn a lot of money for you. The last is to stay informed. We really want to encourage you that we try to and continue to update the PCE website, making sure that in the class of 2023, there's information. The easiest way to access that is go to the school's website and in the search bar, type in class of 2023. You'll see anything that we've shared, any recordings that we've made, presentations that are there, directions to parchment, college application process, all of that will be available. We also have it again on the Counseling Canvas page in all 3 buildings, so the kids can access that when they need it as well. And the last is try to encourage your kids to check their school email. It really is a way that we communicate with them. We know that they don't always read it and don't always check it, but it is definitely a quick tool for us to make sure that we've reached our students in timely information. So this kind of gives you an idea where our senior year begins. We do start by meeting with our seniors and making sure the parents are very well aware of kind of the process as we move towards graduation. So as I said, on August 1st begins the college application process. The application process begins, number one, is to apply online. There are two kinds of college applications. One is called a straight school application. I go to that school's website, I fill out that school's application, and I submit it on their website. The other is what's called a common application. It's an application where you go to Common App, their website, fill it out, connecting it to many, 3, 5, or more schools, and fill out that application. That application then is sent to all of the schools you've added. The second step is that parchment account. So as I said before, in our junior letter we sent to the kids in, I think it was early March, that we asked them to do the Google form and create a parchment account. We still have a number of kids that haven't completed that. So it's an important step because that's how students are going to request their transcript to go from their high school to their college application. So if I do a straight school application, I'm going to send my transcript to that school. If I do Common App and I have 5 universities, I'm not sending my transcript to those universities. I'm sending my transcript to Common App. It actually gets linked in the counseling portion. So you do want to make sure that in the Common App, you add your counselor as a recommender. We want to make sure we say some amazing things about your child. So once you've applied, either on the school's website or through Common App, you sent your transcript to both, or which one you've applied through. The last step is that SAT or ACT scores. And this is where it does have to go directly from the company. ACT.org is ACT's site, or College Board is the SAT. It also includes advanced placement exam scores. But we want to make sure that you send them directly from the site to the university. Doesn't matter the application, it has to go directly to the university. But the other thing to know, again, is that reminders, check their website, know if score is optional. And that might be a conversation to have a meeting with your counselor to decide, should I send it based on my GPA, based on the school I'm considering and what their expectations are? Would this help me be admitted? So we can definitely have that conversation, and we encourage your kids to ask those questions for sure. Letters of recommendation are really only required for that Common App. We encourage kids to do 2 core academic teachers. And it doesn't necessarily, sometimes kids get worried that it has to be like they have this amazing relationship and they've had this teacher 2 or 3 times. It doesn't have to be. It really needs to be a teacher where your student has really shown and done their absolute best. That teacher sees the work ethic. They see their value. They see them participating, how they're completing, their in-depth of learning, and how they're explaining and really being introspective on the information that's being shared in that class. But again, give them a resume so they also know not only what great things you've been doing in their classroom, but how you're also involved outside of school. And that includes not just school activities, but any community activities you've been involved in. And the last is we always shoot for October 31st as the deadline. We want to make sure that while the college application process can be daunting at some points, it begins August 1st, some finishing before school starts. But sometimes we take some time and we want to rehash and go over that essay again. But we want to make sure that by October 31st, you have submitted the top 3, top 5 schools. We want to make sure that our students are in that first wave of decisions. That's a great step for students to be involved in. So the college application, we'll review this again during the senior year, not only at senior parent night, but when we meet with the seniors. But I know that some kids will really want to start that process August 1st. And we have some of that information will already be available on the counseling webpage and give you information. So as we go through this process, there's a lot of things that occur, not only through this junior year, but into senior year. We want to make sure that conversation continues to occur. The conversation not only about their career pathway, but also about what their post-secondary plans may be. Discuss with them about how to set some goals, kind of figuring out when do I need to get this completed? When do I need to complete a scholarship? When should I have college applications done? When are we doing a college visit? Should I consider a trade program at a community college or a trade school that might be local or in a neighboring area? So there's information, again, there's links here to also assist in that process. We want to make sure that they go through this exploration process, and we are here to support it. We would love to meet with them again. I actually just got an email from a student that said, I've really been doing a lot of research. Can we meet again and talk about what I found out? Absolutely. That's probably one of my favorite conversations, and I know many of us like those individual meetings we've had with our juniors. Also, it's really important is to talk to your kids honestly about financial need and financial obligations. What can you do in support? What's the plan for you to help support your child going to their next educational learning experience? And be honest with them so they know how to plan accordingly. It's interesting to see how so many of our kids have become financially savvy, and maybe it's because we've been teaching them as a parent. But it's also really important for them to be able to make a decision that's important to them with all the information in front of them. So it's helpful to kind of go through that. And there's some great resources here to help you in that process. And as I said, have ongoing conversations. Excuse me. One thing I think is really important is reach out and tell your family members that you've got your son or daughter is graduating in a year from now, and have them have that conversation about, well, what do you do for a career and how did you decide? What path did you follow? Are you happy with it? What do you dislike about it? Because that's those ongoing conversations that really help them to start realizing what's the priorities to them, what's important to them, and what makes a difference. And again, we know that you're there to support and guide and assist them. We are also, but more than anything, have them take the lead. Encourage them to be the leader of that ship and those decisions that are going to be in front of them in the future. But again, we want to lead them and support them along the way. So some future events to consider. As I said, we had a college night on March 22nd at Salem. It was a great success. And now what we have coming up is 2 evening programs next week. They are both Zoom appointments or Zoom meetings, so they will be virtual meetings. The link has been shared and is on our website and is on the counseling website and the webpage as well. But the first is on April 11th. I'm joined with a woman from the Michigan Student Aid. And so she was actually at the College and Career Night and did a short preview of kind of financial aid and how you go through that process. She's going to do a little bit more in-depth presentation. We hope to record that presentation so that it'll be accessible for you to look at another time if you're not able to attend our live meeting at 7. But I encourage you to be part of that. You never know where that financial need can come from. Sometimes if you don't qualify for free federal aid, it opens up opportunities for grants and scholarships where it might be a lower interest rate or give an opportunity for more support. The next is we have a number of great athletes at the park, but we have athletes that are great in many different ways that they are not deciding whether it's an NCAA level, Division I or II, or they're looking to do an NAI level. We want to make sure that they have that access to, again, both levels to realize what career path or what path they might be following and what are those necessary steps to get accepted and to get into a college athletic program. So we have an NCAA NAIA night for student athletes. Again, it's virtual. It's at 7 o'clock next Wednesday. I'm joined by a representative from the Eastern Michigan University who's in the NCAA compliance, and from Siena Heights University, it's out of Adrian, Michigan, and it's the NAI compliance director. We've had students that have been an athlete in both of the schools, and so we know that those are great responses, and we're excited to have them participate in our presentations next week. As I said, we're going to do a college essay seminar. So in the Common App, there are essays that students do need to fill out and complete. And so on June 3rd, we're going to be meeting with students, and actually it's first, third, and fifth hour are opportunities for our students to visit. We'll be doing it in the presentation room at Canton High School, which is on the 2nd floor. One of our great English teachers, Mr. Blakesley, will be leading that along with myself and Mr. Forsland, who is, as I said, great in the statistics and data and entrance and admissions data to share with the kids. But it's a great opportunity for students that are looking to do those common applications, those schools that follow the common application, and get kind of some ideas and kind of direction on how to be working and how to choose those essays. We hope that it will really give them some great information so they can kind of begin working on their essays as we move into the summertime and be prepared to complete those applications by October 31st with no problems. In the future, Schoolcraft College has a Step Ahead program. We do that on Wednesday evenings. We've been sharing that out throughout the school year. Those will continue to be programs that we sponsor and support. It's a great relationship that we have with Schoolcraft. They've done a number of different Zoom meetings, and we've been really appreciative, and we know that our kids are really appreciating that information. Maybe it's directed at education or academic support of studying for certain subject matters, but it's also given us opportunities for them to talk about the admissions process and choosing colleges and careers. So keep an eye on that. Infinite Scholars, it's usually in October. It's open to all students. It has been virtual the last couple of years, and we're hoping that it's in person in the fall, but it's an opportunity. We have a number of schools that attend that evening. It has been held at Canton High School in the past. It's open to all of our students, but it's a great opportunity to see not only state schools and neighboring districts. There are some schools that actually come from far away. So it might be an opportunity to meet with a representative that you don't normally get to see, that doesn't necessarily come to our campus, but it'll be a great conversation and to learn more. And Schoolcraft College Night, I'm hoping that some of you guys have been attending those in the last few years, or siblings have been attending. But again, it primarily has most of the Michigan schools and then some outliers as well. Sometimes it has a school from Alaska or Hawaii and anywhere around there. So those are some opportunities to be looking for as we move to the future to support our students. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and just stop for a few minutes. If you have a question, we hope that you've added into the chat and give you some information. I do want to tell you that I really appreciate for you attending. We really hope this information has been helpful. Sometimes it can be overwhelming because there's a lot. And again, we want to make sure that you can go back, listen to the recording again, pause it where you need to, have that conversation ongoing with your child, and then also look at the slides. Take some opportunity to look through the links that we've provided and know that we're not done helping and supporting. We again will be meeting with you as parents in the fall, right in September before open house, and follow it up right away with meeting with the seniors. All of our links are available for our students to make appointments. And as I said before, lunchtime is always an opportunity for kids to walk in and ask questions. But we want to make sure that we're accessible to them and make sure that they have an opportunity to ask some questions. So let me stop sharing here for a minute. And if Ms. Lewis has some questions that have come up, we'll go ahead and see what we have.
All righty. So our first question is, where can you find the graduation audit on MyStar?
So it is under student documents. It should be under the enrollment for documents. And I am sorry, I don't know the actual specific connector piece of that. I'm going to bet your student is much more accessible to accessing that, but it is in the student documents. It's where their transcript is uploaded if they were a transfer student, or enrollment papers are there.
All right, and then where can we get access to all the links contained in this presentation?
So as I said, this presentation is going to be shared on our Class of 2023 webpage. And so not only the recording, but also the presentation will be there. So that's when you can go ahead and look at the presentation and be able to click on any of the links that we've included.
Okay, and then do you know when the SAT scores will be available for the SAT taken at school?
So the SAT in school will probably not come out for a number of weeks. They have gotten quicker in their responses now that they are also doing some digital testing as they move towards that. But I would not, some kids have received their scores the week before the next national test. So it may show up the very end of May, but it's possible you won't receive those scores until we're out of school.
Does the school provide assistance in applying to scholarships?
We certainly do. So we've met with some students, as I said before, we've met with them in junior conferences. We've given them the opportunity to maybe see the scholarship board, start to begin to get an idea, but we've also met with students to kind of do some searching with them. Sometimes we'll sit down with them and check out maybe their universities they're interested in, understanding that when a student applies to specific universities and are accepted, they automatically are enrolled in their scholarship availabilities. So that's when sometimes students will hear that they've been admitted, but also then will receive information about what scholarships they qualify for. So university scholarships usually are just simply based on once you've been accepted or been admitted. and so that you'll receive information. But we are definitely happy to help them and go through that process and just to begin and get an idea of what's out there and available for students.
Do you have any links or suggestions for grants or scholarships that can be applied for now as a junior?
There aren't many. There are some national scholarships, but they really would be a college search or a scholarship search, excuse me. So you could do a scholarship search. Some of the national scholarships, Milk, Coke, those are ones that sometimes will do a junior, but the majority of them, more and more, are not doing them until the beginning of their senior year. So there are some that do come available. And I would tell you that we never want you to pay for a company to find scholarships for you, because really what they're doing is a scholarship search. So we've provided and given you some opportunities to find some connective pieces that, and we'll again provide that information in the fall at open house or just before open house for senior parent night, that you'll actually get some more additional links where you can search those scholarships and see what's available and what's out there.
Alrighty, and then any suggestions on how to know if the university stacks the scholarships or if it takes away from what the university is willing to give you?
So I'm not sure I'm understanding the terminology. So sometimes a student, if you receive a scholarship from an organization, it could, if they submit it to the university, it could reduce your financial aid. And that's where you could see a deduction. But there are more and more, we've seen some of the local and even state scholarships where they actually are giving the money to the student directly on the basis that they've seen the admissions. And so that can be used, and we see this more and more because they understand there's not just simply classes and dorm and room and board to pay for. It's those books, it's the preparation, it's gas to getting to campus. So some of those scholarships where they give it directly to you is definitely not deducted from what you're earning from the university. But sometimes if the scholarship goes directly to the university, it is that possibility that the university will deduct the financial need and keep you within that same realm. But every university is going to be different. I would encourage you that once you have an idea of which school you're planning to attend or your child does, I would meet with a financial aid rep in their office. They are happy to talk to you and kind of work through the steps and how it looks not only as they enter a freshman year, but what opportunities there are not only freshman year, but sophomore, junior, and senior year. There are scholarships that are a 1 year and then scholarships that are for 4 years. So it is something that's a great conversation to have with specifically that admissions or that financial aid office at the university.
Okay. What is the date for the SAT?
Actually, the SAT we are hosting the SAT at school next week. Students are doing pre-bubbling tomorrow, so we're in which they're filling out their name, address, and the basic information. But our juniors will be taking the SAT on Tuesday, correct, Ms. Lewis?
Yes, I believe.
Okay. There's a lot of testing going on. I know that you should have all received an email, specifically a junior letter that specifically talks about junior testing. There's not only the SAT, but they also do the M-STEP and work keys. So there are some additional testing dates, but the SAT is on Tuesday next week, and that's the one at school. Additional dates that are the national dates are on College Board's website. And that, if you're going to do an additional exam, you do need to go to College Board and register and sign up for the exam through that. What you want to do, if you're considering that, even for the June test, I would recommend you signing up now, because you'll be able to find a location hopefully is close to us here. Concordia over in Ann Arbor, Schoolcraft, and some of our other college or high schools do offer the SAT on Saturdays. And so that might be an opportunity for your student, but the sooner you register for the additional exam would be helpful. And this also includes ACT, is because you want to see if you can get a location that's closer rather than could be over an hour away sometimes if you wait too long.
Is it possible for a student to have an internship in high school? If so, how could they find those?
So an internship most likely wouldn't occur during high school. There are some students that may have a job that replicates kind of an internship, but really an internship would probably be a possibility in the summertime because it devotes more time. It usually runs itself just like a full-time job would. So doing it during a school day would be difficult. Some of it would be based on a career pathway. So there are students that we have that do kind of an internship in working with a hospital or working with engineering firm. But again, sometimes those aren't applicable because the student is still in high school and they tend to be more lent onto a college student. But again, it might be just an aspect of checking some local businesses in the area if they take internships or if they offer opportunities for students that are still in high school to do maybe a part-time job. They would also coordinate it kind of that way as well.
Okay. And then how many letters of recommendation should a student solicit?
So I would first start by having 2. And those first 2 would be from core academic teachers. You want to have those that maybe follow within the career pathway that you're headed towards. So example, an engineering student, an engineering teacher, and maybe a math teacher or a physics and a math would be really helpful. But again, doing an English or social studies where they have really shown their absolute best work ethic is definitely valuable. So I would start with those 2. The other third one you could have is from somebody that knows you, not a relative, but knows you maybe working in a capacity of either in a job or doing some volunteer work. Maybe there's a director of an organization where you volunteered a number of hours where they could attest to just your compassion and your work ethic there in a different capacity. So sometimes it might be valuable not only to have those 2 academic, but in looking at scholarships, more on the personal or kind of attributing to your integrity as an individual would also be a helpful recommendation letter to have.
Okay.
It is also important to know sometimes teachers do not give recommendation letters to students. So they do request that they are sent directly to the organization or company. It's very appropriate to do so. It lends that additional level of integrity for what the teacher might be saying. And you always know that that teacher or counselor, whoever it may be, is always wanting to make the best and the best impression possible for that employer or scholarship organization for your student.
Okay. Would there be any help available to review a student's essay?
Absolutely. I have students that actually share their essays with me quite a few times. I know that Mr. Blakesley also, who is going to be doing the essay workshop, is one that has always been willing to look at many of his students and other kids. Kids that do the essay seminar, he's also been open to looking at their essays. But the counselor is always an option to share your essay with, to kind of work through it. I encourage you to have many eyes on your essay because you want to make sure that your voice is really being heard. And so as a few people start to read it and understand it, they'll really give you some great feedback. But I think any English teacher also would be supportive of reading an essay and giving you some good feedback.
Let's see. Sorry, I'm just kind of reading through the chat here.
No, that's okay. As I said before.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The school SAT is with the essay. Do we know why, since the College Board has dropped it?
I don't know why it has specified itself for this year, but it is included in the essay. Colleges and universities, though, will still look at the straight scores. One thing that's important to know is anytime you share your scores with a university, they will always be looking at the straight scores first in the composite, and they will always take the highest score. Even though the essay is included in this one, I'm assuming that it's just based on how the state set up the SAT for our students across the state. And that's why the essay is included. I don't know if that will change for the future. But yes, it is included as part of their examination this week. And it is good experience for the kids to have that opportunity. But again, a college or university will always take a child's highest score, whether it's the first time, the last time, the 5th time, or the 3rd time. They will always look at the highest score and use that as admissions. But again, you want to make sure that you're also looking to know, is it a score that will support them for admissions based on their other criteria, their GPA, their course selection, and a college university. Their websites will give you some input on that, but also their counselor would also be able to help them in making that determination.
Okay. And then someone asked if the scholarship board is a physical thing at school or is it online?
It's both. The scholarship board, there is one on the school's website. You can connect to that. If you go to the school's website and go counseling department, underneath our category on the left, you'll find scholarships, and it will take you to all the listing of our scholarships. But those same exact scholarships are also posted physically on bulletin boards. They are available in all 3 buildings, as I said. The information is the same for all 3 schools. If it is an application where you actually are turning in a scholarship, you do need to turn it into your home school. But you usually, if there is a paper copy that's there, you can pick it up from any one of the schools, but making sure that you return it to your home school. So yes, the scholarship board is physically in all 3 buildings. We have had parents that come in and look at it. Sometimes kids are too busy. And we know that sometimes the financial need is more important to the parents sometimes than the kids. But again, we want to encourage those kids. So that's why we made it accessible in many ways for
them. Okay. Are all juniors registered for the SAT next week? Can students opt out of the school SAT?
All students are registered to take the SAT next week. Because our office is not the one that's overseeing the exam, I apologize. I do not know the answer if the student can opt out of it. I think that would be something to reach out maybe in the morning with your high school counselor. I will find that answer and see if I can also get that posted on or share that out as well. But I would tell you that probably for the few that are considering that, the only reason that maybe a student might consider that is that they have already taken the SAT and have done extremely well and are happy with their score. But I would tell you to still take the SAT. It gives you information on your strengths and weaknesses as you a couple of months later and seeing where you are academically. And it does not mean that you have to send your scores anyplace. You don't have to send them and taking them next week, Tuesday, but it definitely would give you an opportunity to kind of get an idea of where you're at. Sorry, I don't have that specifics of the opt-out, but I would ask you that reach out specifically to your child's counselor so we can find that answer for you, those that are interested in doing so.
Okay. How many credits needed for graduation?
So when students start as a freshman, information is shared. It is available on our school's website under counseling. It's under course selection. We have a course catalog at the very beginning of it, talks about graduation requirements. It's probably within the first 10 pages. It actually lists for you the specific courses that are needed, but a student must earn 22 credits to graduate. And understand that as an incoming freshman, some of them come in with credits from the middle school. If they'd taken a world language or a math class, algebra, geometry, one of those, that is added to their transcript from there. And some of our incoming 9th graders have taken summer school previously, that summer before, where they have a credit that's added. So there are students that have already credits as they start high school, but each year students earn or have the opportunity to earn 6 credits. So if you simply started high school and started earning credits at that point, you would earn 24, passing everything. So you would have plenty to graduate with.
Okay. So is the ACT no longer required?
So the ACT is just another tool. We used to be an ACT state, but some years ago it changed over and the state went with doing SAT testing. The SAT and ACT are much more similar, but there are kids that we see that tend to do better on one than the other. So it is not a requirement, but it is an option for students to take it on a Saturday as a national test date. And you would find those dates and locations on act.org. But that is an option for our students if they choose to take the ACT, but they still need to take that SAT.
Okay, I did see a question about the SAT next week. It is on the 13th, Wednesday. We said Tuesday, so sorry about that.
Okay.
But it is on Wednesday, the 13th. So I just wanted to confirm that.
Perfect.
Let's see.
And it is important. There was a letter that was sent out for every grade level that specified their testing for the next couple of weeks and their schedule of expectation of when they're going to be at school or when they're doing some online virtual learning.
Yep. And then the work keys is the 14th. So the next day, the Thursday.
Perfect.
Let's see. Do the counselors have examples or recommendations around the resumes for seniors?
Some do. I think we just have a spattering of resumes, but a resume really is something that I would Google. It's not anything, the resume really is just to get some data and information and dates together. So it's not something that you're doing where you're using a resume as a job application. This resume would definitely be different, as I've talked about. This is sharing all your activities and things you've been involved in. And it could be just a way of record keeping your information. But I would be happy to sit down. I have a couple of ones that I have had with my students, and I know a number of other counselors have those. We'll share those out with everybody so they have those. Just ask your son or daughter to make an appointment with their counselor and look at some possible framework of what they would use it for. But again, if it's not for a job application, that resume really is going to be a listing of all the things they've involved in from high school. So we do want to specify, we're really looking through the 4 years of high school, not in middle school. But again, it can be something they're involved in that's connected with school or things they've been involved in outside of school. We have students that are in rec programs and other organizations that are not connected with school, but that definitely is something they're involved in. We want them to put that on a resume, what that they would share with either their teacher for a recommendation letter or have prepared. So when they sit down and do a college application, they're able to fit that information right in one by one.
Okay. See, I think I missed one. There's a trend for non-traditional approach to university education, entrepreneurship. Are there any resources at P-CCS for students considering this option?
So we have had a few people that have come in and they do speak with some of our specific classes like entrepreneurship or marketing about the aspect of moving right into a workforce or following a different pathway that is not necessarily coordinated with a college or university or a military or trade program. So we have had some speakers that have come through. I would encourage your student to reach out and look on the Career Center's website or check in with Mrs. Sties in the Career Center, because I know that she also connects people that are coming in from the community that talk about entrepreneurship and opportunities right out of high school or even during high school as they move through their kind of career pathway per se. But it definitely gives an opportunity for our students to learn more and consider those possibilities. There are a number of programs in the area that also do. Ross School Business also has some opportunities for students to do 1-credit classes and 2-credit seminars that are really helpful. And I would also recommend to search on Schoolcraft's site, because they will also do some of those as continuing ed programs that will help kids or help adults even move towards an entrepreneurship program or an entrepreneurship endeavor that they may be interested in, and getting that kind of education or information through those programs. But we'll add that onto an added support list for sure.
Okay. Does it matter to colleges how many times a student takes the SAT exam? Is less better?
No, doesn't matter. Every representative we've ever talked to that ever comes in to see us, that ever talks with our students, and this is all the big schools, the Michigan schools, as well as neighboring schools, will always say they will take the highest score. Now, majority of schools will only take that composite score, but there are some schools that will look and refigure a super score. What they're doing is they're looking at 3 SAT scores. Your student took the SAT 3 times, sent all 3 to a college or university. They in turn look at all the sub scores and recombine to take the highest sub score from all those 3 exams and figure out a new composite. So that's what they call a super score. So that's an opportunity that some universities do. So that's why we would never discourage. But again, they will always take the highest score. They've looked at it the same understanding that any given day, you just may be off your game. They're looking to see that you are at your top of your game. And again, you want to consider that possibility. It's slightly different now with so many schools going score optional, but we'd want to make sure that it's connecting or supporting a GPA or even enhancing that academic situation that you're at.
Okay. Do colleges consider weighted or cumulative GPA? How is IB GPA calculated?
So first of all, one thing that college and universities get is the transcript. As we said, that vehicle parchment is where it's going to be sent from the high school to the college or university. And when they get the transcript, they not only see the GPA as a cumulative GPA, but they also see semester GPAs as well as the courses specifically. So they also receive what's called a profile. We do a profile of our school. It is sent to all of the universities and made available for them. And one statistical piece it talks about is our honor system, our honor points. So our AP and IB classes do get honor points. The IB specifically is really about the IB distinction in front of the class. So an IB diploma is specific where in which students taking an IB course, if they are in the IB program, that actually will give them and move them towards an IB diploma. And that is one thing a college or university will ask. So that's one criteria. But in AP exam or AP classes, honor points are also given. Those honor points are given for A, B's, and C's for students that achieve, and it's added to the GPA. But as my discussion happened with a student just today was many universities do refigure the GPA. They set kids on a level playing field where in which they remove that honor point. So while the honor point is definitely valuable and it does help students, it is a situation that sometimes colleges and universities refigure that GPA and are looking really for that distinction where it says AP or IB. So they do get the course list. So they do get the courses the students not only taken 9th, 10th, and 11th, and I said middle school as well, if they're appropriate, but they will also see their senior year schedule. So if a student is taking AP or IB classes in their senior year, they will also see that list of courses. And so whether that GPA has been given the honor point, that's what's considered weighted. It's been weighted heavier. Otherwise, they will refigure it and put it back to a straight scale. I hope I answered that question.
How would you know the student's class rank?
So the class rank is not official until they are a senior. So class rank doesn't really pertain until the senior year. And as I said, when we meet with the seniors, those couple weeks into September, we will be talking to the kids and giving them a copy of their transcript. And on that, we'll show their class rank. Any student with a 4.0 and above is considered to be ranked at number 1. When we fill out, as counselors, we fill out the common application, which is the only time it's going to be asked. We are asked the question, what is their ranking and how many students share that ranking? So if we have 75 number 1s at the individual school, we put in the student is ranked 1 and they share it with 74 students. Again, that does fluctuate, but again, it doesn't become official until their senior year and it will be on their transcript.
Okay, let's see. Have you seen any of the effects of the option of taking a credit versus the grade during COVID yet in the acceptance process?
So colleges and universities, as I said, we create a profile and share that with them. We shared with them the option that students had 2 years ago and last year, so that what their options were in giving credit or getting a grade. So I know that of any representatives that we've met with and talked with over the last year, they are definitely more understanding of where they're at. There is definitely a shift in their expectations in the sense they are also looking, and almost every one of them are looking at a more holistic student. So it hasn't shown itself to be a direct impact on a student. I have not been in the position where I've called a representative specifically asking about a student that put credit, but it definitely lends itself to be more supportive when it has that grade of showing their strength. Because again, as we talk about it, the GPA is something we tend to focus on, but the GPA, the classes they've taken, the trend in GPA from 9th grade through their junior year, heading into senior year, and all the other components, the essays, the recommendation letters, the activities, the leadership roles, all of those begin to also play a part. So it'd be very difficult to determine that separation. But again, our universities and colleges are all made aware of what our grading policies were during COVID.
What does the work key test focus on?
The work keys is a Michigan requirement. It's something that it gives more curriculum based. I believe it does. Its primary piece is social studies because the SAT does not test that. And yet, we know that the importance of social studies in an academic learning process. So that is one component that's included in that, the work key section. But again, it's not something that they are used for and sent to colleges.
Okay. And then, so my student says he is not ready for the school SAT and prefers to take it only 3 times. He already has taken it twice. He wants to take his 3rd time test later. Should he skip the school SAT?
I wouldn't skip it because again, it's an opportunity to take the exam. As we know, we've seen kids as they take it an additional time, they tend to do better because if the score turns out even the best score possible, then that's the one they can send. And it's a free test. While there are some families that have the opportunity to take the SAT for free, this is free for all of our students. And it does give an idea of where they are academically, strengths and weaknesses. And the nice thing is, and many times we see it's also a comfortable location. We know that the kids many times have to take the school, since we don't do Saturday tests at the park, it is something where they have to take their test in a different location. And it's not something that can hurt them because they don't have to send it and they don't have to share it with any college or university, but they can use it for their own benefit to get a better idea of where their strengths and weaknesses, especially as they move to maybe that 3rd time that they do plan to take it. So I would not recommend skipping it.
For financial aid, is that already available or is that October of 2022?
So you cannot apply to the federal aid, the FAFSA. It does not open until the senior year, October 1st. But it is important for you to register, sign up, and submit as soon as possible after that date. So it's not something that you can do ahead of time. You can't do it until your senior year. But there definitely are those links that we shared in the presentation that will kind of begin to explain what your expectation and what information you will be sharing and how you go about creating an account and going from there. And again, coming to the workshop next week, Monday night, would also be valuable to learn more of the specifics about that whole process.
Okay, is there a Common App demo available?
You can go on Common App. Common App does put out their information. I have not seen the essays listed at this point in time. They have been keeping the same essays for a couple of years. They do slightly change them, but the kids have access, or many of them already have seen them. I'd encourage kids to go on Common App and see what essays are out there at this point. But we'll talk about many of those during the essay seminar in June. And not only the essays that are pertinent to the coming fall, but ones that we've seen in the past, and really on what the expectation is and how to kind of guide them in creating a great essay for students.
And then when is the best time to get the recommendation letters? End of junior year or before?
So we'd recommend the juniors to begin that process now. Some of it is more so because the academic rigor that they've had in their junior year tends to be more appropriate as they apply to college or university. We know that juniors tend to have hopefully a little better idea of their career pathway. So that's why they can focus maybe on a specific teacher or specific academic class. But yeah, it's not something that they're needed until they are a senior applying for scholarships and college applications, or for a few times there are some junior scholarships available out there. But again, those recommendation letters would be something I would be doing the spring of your junior year, so you have them in preparation for the fall.
Okay. I think right now we're caught up on questions. If I missed your question, you can just enter in the chat or let me know. Let's see.
So while Ms. Lewis is checking that out, again, we really appreciate you being here tonight. We hope that this information has been really helpful for you. All of the counseling department and the counselors have been working hard with the juniors to meet with them one-on-one to talk about where their future plans are. And as I said, if your child didn't make their appointment, we know that classes get changed, or they something happens where they're not able to leave class at that time, we encourage them to reach out and make an appointment. Our appointment calendar is on our Canvas page, so they can click to the link. And there definitely are posters outside of, I think, all 3 counseling offices with those links as well. I know in my response to any of my emails, it has the link to my appointment calendar for students to sign up. I do ask that if parents want to come in and meet, I do ask that you reach out to me directly. And it is also helpful you do that to your child's counselor, because sometimes our appointments with students are only set up to be either between 10 and 15 minutes. Clearly, students can let us know if they need to talk further. But if we know that if we're meeting with parents and your child or your student, we want to make sure that we allow you a little additional time. And sometimes we want to pull some resources together for you specifically, so you're there and getting the most out of that appointment. Anything further, Ms. Lewis?
I do see one that said, is the school SAT with the essay or without? It is with the essay. And then I had no sound when you answered this question. How many letters of rec needed again?
I recommend 2 from core teachers, but you also may want to have a third that's more like a personal reference. Somebody that knows you and knows what amazing individual your student is, can talk more about their true test of character, their integrity, and kind of give a different twist and understanding of who your child is.
Okay, and we are all caught up.
Okay. Well, with that, I won't keep you any longer than needed, but please know that we are there to support our kids throughout this process. I appreciate all of those of you that reached out. There was another workshop this evening that was out from an outside company. We certainly want to make sure that we are giving you the accurate and specific information to our students at the park. We know that we are a special opportunity or a special environment, and we want to make sure that our students know that process. As a couple of last reminders, we did send an email to your student, and ask them to do 2 things. The Google form is very valuable and important. It is a key contributor to us being able to do our recommendation letter and be able to complete their Common App on a timely manner. So it's important that they complete that Google form. But the other is to create the Parchment account. We want to make sure that our students have that all set up and ready to go. On August 1st, college applications will become available. It may be that day when you realize, oh my gosh, I don't remember or don't know. Know that you can come back to the class of 2023 webpage, find out a great deal of information, as well as your child can check the Counseling Canvas page for the directions for the college application process, Parchment, and more. And again, keep in touch. Make sure that you're checking through that web page and look for updates and information. And other than that, I hope to see many of you at the financial aid night next Monday night. And if your student is interested in athletics, I encourage you to attend the NCAA NAIA night on Wednesday evening. And from there, we'll do the essays in June, and then hopefully off to a great summer and ready to start a great senior year. We look forward to continuing working with your kids. And thanks again, everybody. Have a good night. Good night, Ms. Lewis, and thank you so much for your help.
Mm-hmm.